The emerald shrimp recipe serves for 12 ounces shrimp, shelled, deveined, and cut down the middle from the back. 4 cups flat leaf spinach, washed well, stems removed, coarsely chopped. 2 tablespoons green onion, white parts only, roll cut in 1/2 inch cuts. 1/2 ounce Smithfield ham, 1/2 inch dice. 2 cups water, 1½ cup oil, 1 garlic clove, 2 teaspoons mirin. For the marinade, 1 egg white, 1/2 teaspoon salt, 2 teaspoons tapioca powder or cornstarch, 1/4 teaspoon sesame oil, 1/4 teaspoon sugar, a dash of white pepper.
All right, our next dish for today is emerald shrimp. Emerald shrimp gets its name from the emerald color the shrimp will receive when we make a nice puree out of the spinach leaves. So we have our spinach and we have our water. In a second, we're going to do the puree, but I'm going to introduce you to the other ingredients. For our marinade, besides the spinach puree, we have egg whites, we have salt, sugar, cornstarch, sesame oil, and white pepper. And we have our shrimp here. Our finishing touches for the dish will be green onions, the Chinese ham, garlic, and rice wine vinegar. All right, so we're going to start our puree off by, we have approximately 4 cups of spinach. I'm just going to put it in the blender here. I'm going to add about a cup of water. And we're going to blend. We're going to basically blend this till it's a puree. Okay, now that this is pretty well pureed, I'm going to put this through a very fine strainer. I have a China Cat with some coffee filters in here. Slowly add this in. You're going to see in a second what we're going to do. I'm going to strain this out, and with the leftover pulp, I'm going to add a little bit more water so we can get as much of the spinach juice. Basically, we're going to extract the chlorophyll. You're going to see in a second that when I get this spinach water, I'm going to add it to this pot. We're going to bring it over the flame, and as soon as it comes to a boil, we're going to see that the foam that comes up is a pure chlorophyll and the puree. And from that, we will receive our emerald color for our emerald shrimp. I'm going to speed this up just a bit, get this thing going. I'm just gently trying to squeeze it out through this coffee filter without breaking the bag, without breaking the filter. If you don't want to get green stained fingers, I suggest you use gloves. That's it. As you can see, nice green on the fingers, just like Mr. Hulk. Okay, there's a little bit more pulp in there. All I'm going to do is going to add a little bit more water. Make sure we get all that juice out. Watch the color on this. Nice, vibrant green. Okay, we're going to bring this to the fire, and we're going to bring this to a boil. As soon as it comes to a boil, we're going to shut it off and skim off the foam off the top. If you look good, you can see these tiny, darker green amongst this green cloud right here. It's all the chlorophyll that's just coming up. And it's basically going to turn into almost like a chlorophyll paste, if you will. See, right now it's starting to simmer. What I'm waiting for is where it's going to start bubbling, just right completely around the edges. As soon as it does that, I'm going to shut this off. I don't want this to come to a full boil because I don't want to break apart this raft of spinach foam. We're almost there. Any second now. And that's it. I'm going to bring this over to our cutting board here. Okay, you're going to see now, I'm going to get my spoon. I'm going to gently, you can see that. You can see right here, you can see how when I start scooping this off the top, if you look in the spoon, you can see how the water has separated from the green particles, which is actually your chlorophyll. Kind of cool. There, if you get a shot, if you can see this into this pot, you can see how it's basically water with a green raft floating on top. And this again will be our emerald dye. Once we get this going. It's kind of cool. You can. This is how back in the day before we had artificial food coloring, this is how they got green food coloring. Obviously, a lot healthier, time-consuming, but a lot healthier. Okay, I think that's enough. But again, look at this. You can see how it's all the colors separated, and basically this is kind of a tingy water, but you can see some of the particles that the chlorophyll particles that floated to the top that I've left. But you can see a nice, very beautiful green. Okay, what we're going to do now, we're going to let this drain a little while, and we're going to let it cool because when we add it to our shrimp, we want it cold because if it's hot, it'll probably start cooking the shrimp, and we don't want that. So I'm going to take this away and let it drain. I'll be right back. Okay, this is what we came out with. This is our spinach chlorophyll puree. As you can see, it looks like a super dark green paste. And what we're going to do now is we're going to slowly add it to our shrimp. I'm going to add a little at a time so I can mix it well, because I want this to basically cover all the shrimp as much as possible. You can already see how dark it is. You're going to see in a second how much color we can get from just this little puree. I've used about half, and you can see already how green the shrimp is turning. All right, now it's pretty well mixed. So we got our coloring in. I'm going to start adding the flavor. We have some salt. We have some sugar. White pepper. We have a little sesame oil and our egg white. Going to mix that all up. I'm saving the cornstarch for last because once I add the cornstarch, it's kind of going to make it congeal. I want all these spices and flavors to mix well with the shrimp before I add the cornstarch. But you guys can see, look at this green color, boy. Okay, that's pretty good. Now I'm going to add the cornstarch. And when we added the sesame oil, it serves two purposes. We're adding the sesame oil, one for the flavor, and two, like we saw in previous recipes, when we're marinating, the oil will help the protein separate when we do the initial oil blanching or the initial stir fry. Okay, that's pretty good. From now, we're going to let this sit for about 30 minutes and refrigerated. But we already have some already ready for us here, so we're going to begin the stir fry. So basically what we're going to do now, we're going to basically oil blanch this for about, maybe a minute, and then we're going to take it out and we'll finish it with our ingredients, what we have in front of us right here. So from here, we're going to get our wok hot here. We're going to add about 2 tablespoons of oil. For this dish, because you can see the shrimp, they've been cut and split in half right down the middle, so they're pretty thin, so I'm basically going to use a very high heat. I'm going to let this get almost to the smoking point before I add the shrimp in. And again, only because the shrimp is cut in half and they're thin that I'm going to do this, because otherwise if the shrimp were whole, they'd be twice the thickness. I probably would use maybe a medium-high heat because I want to cook uniformly, and I want it where that when I do the initial cooking, all the pieces are basically going to be cooked about the same amount, whereas if it was whole and the heat was high, they might sear too quickly on the outside, and they might get too dark before the product is finished. Okay, this is right before smoking. You can see the oil is kind of ripply. That tells me we're just there. So again, I'm going to add the shrimp towards me. I don't want it splashing in the oil. Quickly stir fry this. And we see, because the oil in our marinade, how they separate quite easily. And basically, you can see how the shrimps are beginning to curl. That's my signal. I'm going to take them out. Let them drain. While they are draining, I'm going to take, again, a little of the oil. Add about another 2 tablespoons again. While this is getting hot, I'm going to bring my finishing ingredients. So here we have our Chinese ham and our green onions, and our rice wine vinegar, and our garlic. So oil is just about hot. I'm going to add my garlic. Again, why am I using smashed garlic instead of chopped garlic? Because I want a lot of garlic flavor. If I had chosen to use chopped garlic, by the time I put the chopped garlic in, it'd probably be starting to burn right now because there's so tiny pieces. Whereas a bigger piece of garlic that is smashed, it's going to allow it, the oil is not going to burn it, and it's going to allow the flavors to fully come out. And as soon as the garlic starts turning brown on the edges like this, that's my sign. I'm going to put in the green onions. The ham. I'll add my green onions next. I'm basically just stir frying this as soon as I can smell the aroma. All right, going to add the shrimp back to this picture. We'll probably stir fry this maybe another minute. Right now, the shrimp's probably 80% cooked. So the last 20%, I want all the flavors from the ham and the green onion to permeate the shrimp. Shrimp are just about done. I'm going to finish it off with our rice wine. Now I'm just going to cook it till the wine dissolves, and that's it. We're done. This is a very quick and simple dish. Again, the most difficult part of this was doing the extraction of the chlorophyll. Once that's done, this is a very easy dish. We're almost there. Right now I can smell roast garlic, I can smell green onions, ham. It's just wonderful. And of course the shrimp. Okay, that's it. All right, we're going to take this. You can see that. Very nice. here we have our emerald shrimp. Enjoy.